Here at QueenStreet United Methodist Church in Kinston, North Carolina. Welcome to our Wesley Bible study. And today we're going to be going over chapters 4 and 5. We're going to go through chapter 4 very quickly and get on to the fun part in chapter 5. So here we go. In the book of Numbers, chapter 4, they're talking about the Kohathites. Okay, the Kohathites are a clan within the Levites. And the Kohathites are set aside. They are like the Levites are the elite just below the priest. And within the elite, the Kohathites are the elite. Okay, they're the ones who handle the items in the Holy of Holies. And in taking down the curtain that separates everything from the Holy of Holies from the rest of the tabernacle. So there's just a couple of interesting things about the Kohathites we're going to go through. It goes into these are the dishes and this is what you do, and then with the ashes, there are ashes left over. So you can't just take the items with the ashes. You've got to take the ashes separately, and you've got to cover them with a certain leather cloth, and all. It goes into all the details about that, which we don't need to know because we're not Kohathites for one thing, and for another thing, the temple was destroyed by the Romans. So, there you go. But at the end of chapter 4, it says, the Lord spoke to Moses and Aaron, saying, you must not let the tribe of the clans of the Kohathites be destroyed from among the Levites. This is how you must deal with them in order that they may live and not die when they come near to the most holy things. Aaron and his sons shall go in and assign each to a particular task or burden, but the Kohathites must not go in to look on the holy things even for a moment, otherwise they will die. How about that? So they've got to learn how to do this blindfolded.
You really think?
Yeah. I mean, okay, there's something I think is characteristics of this culture, okay, that I think is important for us to realize, because it has to do in many ways with the later history of Israel and how the tribes get along or don't. Okay. Each tribe is assigned a specific task. Okay. So especially within the Levites, there is a special task. Within the priesthood, there's a special task. Okay. Nobody can overlap somebody else's task. You can't help them. If they don't have enough manpower, nobody from another tribe is allowed to help them do what they're supposed to do.
But wouldn't God have taken care of all of that? Wouldn't he not have made sure that the clan that he had chosen to do that job would have enough people to do it?
Yes, as a matter of fact, there are a lot more people in these clans, according to their census numbers, than you would ever need to do these jobs. Okay? I mean, thousands more.
But why would God be so harsh?
Well,
You make a mistake and you die. I mean, that's pretty harsh.
it
He's
is.
doing his work.
Yeah,
You know,
people.
That's right. I mean,
That's right.
They're
And
volunteering to do his work. The Kohathite, whatever.
Yeah.
They volunteered.
No, they didn't volunteer. There ain't no volunteering in this. No, you're Kohathite, you're going in there and get that
I thought
stuff.
you chose to be one and
No.
you grew your hair and you
No.
didn't drink alcohol.
No,
and all
that's a
that.
Nazarite. That's different.
Oh, okay. I'm
Yeah.
getting my eyes mixed up.
See, I was a Nazarene when I was growing up, and so I just, I always had that other special thing, although I did get haircuts and when I got older. Anyway,
All those more.
some of those other prohibitions went by the wayside.
But again, is this not the way that the people are writing this to make us think this, or is this?
These people are writing this so that the king of Persia will think that. Okay? They have to convince the king of Persia. And by the way, one of the ways that they are writing an authentic document is that they're going back to old texts, old scrolls, and they're using Old Hebrew to write this. They are not writing it in Aramaic. They're not writing it in Persian. Okay? So they're not writing it in a way that the king of Persia and interpret it to the king of Persia. Okay, they're using an ancient language, and one of the problems, of course, is when they do get back to the promised land, and then they're trying to actually set up the community to live the way that they said that they were going to live. They read the law, but they read it in ancient Hebrew, and all the people who came back spoke Aramaic. So they had to interpret the law to their own people so that they could authentically be the people that used to be there. Okay? So it gets a little complex. But one of okay, our government classifies things, and they're classified at basically 3 levels: confidential, secret, top secret. Okay. But when you get to the top secret part, then there's an additional level, okay, for the kind of intelligence that you might be exposed to, and it's special compartmental intelligence, and SCI, it's an SCI clearance, and I had that, okay. And the government classifies things for 2 reasons. One of them is to keep things secret from your enemies. Okay, things that the enemy should not know, you classify and protect it. Okay, the other reason that our government classifies things, and this is happening more and more, is to protect people who messed up in the government. Okay, so some things are classified that really ought not to be classified. They're just put in there so that an agency won't be held accountable for doing something really stupid or illegal. Okay, that happens too. And so when you see these different divisions, these people are only allowed to do this, it's like special compartmental intelligence. Okay, and that's to protect the uniqueness of each of these functions so that there's no merging from anybody else. You're protecting the tribe, like the priesthood. You know, I can't say, well, I've been called of God to be a priest. No, you can't be called of God to be a priest because you're not a descendant of Aaron, so you can't be called to be a priest. Okay, you are assigned to be a priest, and there's none of this ordaining kind of thing just generally available to the population. It's only to the descendants of Aaron. The Levites, it's only to the descendants of Levi. So, or what they cobbled together as the sons of Levi. Okay, because
that today?
no, because there's not a temple cult any longer. Okay, so I mean, you know, rabbis they choose to be rabbis. Okay, it's just like pastors who are called to be pastors choose to accept that calling. Same thing with rabbis.
Well, back in those days, if you were in the tribe of Aaron, you were a priest whether you wanted to be one or not.
Correct.
And so that's why we've had so many priests that were not really good priests.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. That's true. And well, you know that whenever you have whenever religion is assigned or predestined or something like that, it doesn't take a couple of generations for things to get corrupted. It just does.
We had a Methodist minister at a St. Mark Church, and he said from the pulpit that he didn't believe in the virgin birth. That's when we left the church.
That's when you left the church. Well, you know, there are all kinds of ministers out there, you know, and believe me, serving on the District Board of Ordained Ministry, I've met them. And some of them.
And a few months later,
Mhm.
the district
Yeah,
superintendent called about building a Methodist church on 258, and I told him about it.
yeah.
I didn't tell him.
Okay, well, you know, we take those things under advisement. Sometimes, you know, and at least in the United Methodist denomination, you can call pastors to account if they stray too far from biblical teachings or from ethical behaviors or things like that. We do keep our pastors, we do hold our pastors accountable. So,
So can I ask a question? It's probably not a good question, but I want to ask it anyway.
well, then you're going to.
I know. So,
Good preface.
we are being taught by you and
Yeah.
probably other people that Moses didn't write this, that
Right.
other writers did.
Yes,
So are all Methodist preachers being taught to teach it that way?
yes,
That, in your seminary,
yes.
that this is what we're saying, that,
Okay, that depends on the seminary.
okay,
Okay, for quite a while, Wake Forest had a seminary. It was Baptist, and we allowed ministers to go through that seminary for training. Okay, it's very different. Like, but they did have to include in the curriculum things that were specific to the organization and doctrine of the United Methodist Church before we would consider them for ordination. Okay, if they didn't take those courses, they weren't going to pass the district board or the conference board. So Duke Divinity School is nominally a Methodist institution because Methodists have to serve on the board of directors. But it is not a seminary, it's a divinity school. And the professors were from a whole variety of denominations.
What's the difference?
A seminary is assigned by, like for instance, Asbury is a seminary. It is a United Methodist seminary, okay?
Southeastern.
Huh?
What about Southeastern?
Southeastern is
Yeah,
not.
well, yeah.
But what's the difference between a seminary?
A seminary is a denominational entity. A divinity school is one that is nominally headed by representatives from the denomination, but the faculty can be from a variety of different places. So as a divinity school, we were exposed to Lutheran, Catholic, Baptist, all different kinds of doctrines as we went through divinity school at Duke.
If someone, a Methodist
Candler is Methodist, by the way.
goes to a Presbyterian or Baptist seminary.
Yes.
Are there other, do they have to take special courses?
Yes, they do.
Outside of that?
They absolutely do.
Thompson girls.
The Thompson girls did that, yes. And see, we have a good working relationship with the Presbyterians, and I'm quite sure that the Presbyterian Seminary had United Methodist courses involved, or there would be a way for them to get those courses as a way to be ordained in the denomination. Okay, so, no, everybody who comes as a candidate for ministry in the United Methodist Church is incredibly heavily scrutinized. Okay. Okay, so after we get past the Kohathites, then you have the Gershonites and the Merarites, and you're talking about people who break down the tent of meeting, parts of the tabernacle, and they're assigned, to carry the posts and the bracing and the curtains and it all breaks it all down. Chapter 4, if you really want to pack for a camping trip, chapter 4 is a great thing to go through. Okay. Then you have the census of the Levites, okay? And they're enrolled from 30 years old up to 50. Okay, so this isn't the same as the other populations where it's 20 to 50 because the others are designed to fight. These people are designed to carry things. So, okay, here we go. Their enrollment by their clans and their ancestral houses was 2,630. 2,630 to move 2 tents. Okay? Talk about a bureaucracy,
They call it numbers.
Yeah, that's why they call it numbers, yes. But I mean, talk about a bureaucracy. And then remember, these people do not contribute agriculturally to everybody else. They're not part of the food processing. They're not part of the regular army, They're just there to move stuff. and to clean stuff and bring utensils and help with the worship thing. They're in the choreography business. That's a lot of people. That's a big bureaucracy, really, when you think of it. Okay. All right, chapter 5. This is where we get into some heavy stuff. Okay. Unclean persons. The Lord spoke to Moses, saying, command the Israelites to put out of the camp everyone who is leprous, who has a discharge, and everyone who is unclean through contact with a corpse. You shall put out both male and female, putting them outside the camp. They must not defile the camp where I dwell among them. The Israelites did so, putting them outside the camp as the Lord had spoken to Moses, so the Israelites did. See, they had their own COVID things going on. Okay. Then there's confession and restitution. The Lord spoke to Moses, saying, speak to the Israelites, when a man or a woman wrongs another, breaking faith with the Lord, that person incurs guilt and shall confess the sin that has been committed. The person shall make full restitution for the wrong, adding 1/5 to it, punitive damages. Okay? And giving to the one who is wronged, if the injured party has no next of kin to whom restitution may be made for the wrong, the restitution for the wrong shall go to the Lord for the priest, in addition to the ram of atonement, with which the atonement is made for the guilty party. Among all the sacred donations of the Israelites, every gift that they bring to the priest shall be his. The sacred donations of all are their own. Whatever anyone gives to the priest shall be his.
You're already setting up for,
Oh,
you know, a
Oh.
lot of,
oh yeah.
you
It's,
know,
it's,
turmoil.
yeah, it's like when somebody sets up one of these Ponzi schemes, okay? And then the government fines them. So who what about the victims,
What did he mean by touching a dead person? If somebody dies, somebody has to.
That's correct. But there is a method for being restored. Okay, after a certain period of time, you bring an offering and you are ritually made clean again.
Not restored to life again.
Yeah, the dead person didn't get restored. Okay, the dead person stayed dead. But yeah, and that's one of the reasons why, for instance, if a woman is married to a tanner, she has the right to divorce the tanner because he's constantly dealing with dead things, and so he's constantly unclean, plus he stinks. And so it's hard for the woman to claim her right for sexual relations because the guy stinks. And so that's grounds for divorce within this culture. Just a thought. So,
Adultery was the only thing.
yeah. So, I mean, no dating tanners, ladies, just. Oh, you'll love this part. Concerning an unfaithful wife. The Lord spoke to Moses, saying, speak to the Israelites and say to them, if any man's wife goes astray and is unfaithful to him, if a man had intercourse with her, but it is hidden from her husband, so that she is undetected, though she has defiled herself, and there is no witness against her, since she was not caught in the act. If a spirit of jealousy comes on him, and he is jealous of his wife who has defiled herself, or if a spirit of jealousy comes on him, and he is jealous of his wife, though she has not defiled herself, then the man shall bring his wife to the priest. How about that? All you got to have is a suspicion.
Yeah.
Okay? By the way, this is very gender specific. Okay?
The men can do what they want to.
Well, there's no provision in the law.
Same thing.
There is a provision that if a man and a woman are caught in adultery, they're both supposed to get stoned. So, anyway. So let's see what happens. And he shall bring the offering required for her, 1/10 of an ephah of barley flour. He shall pour no oil on it, and put no frankincense on it, for it is a grain offering of jealousy. You can't sweeten that pot. Okay? A grain offering of remembrance, bringing iniquity to remembrance. Oh, okay. Then the priest shall bring her near and set her before the Lord. The priest shall take holy water in an earthen vessel, and take some of the dust that is on the floor of the tabernacle and put it into the water. The priest shall set the woman before the Lord, dishevel the woman's hair, and place in her hands the grain offering of remembrance, which is the grain offering of jealousy. So now she's got to carry the offering of jealousy, okay? In his own hand, the priest shall have the water of bitterness that brings the curse, Then the priest shall make her take an oath, saying, if no man has lain with you, if you have not turned aside to uncleanness while under your husband's authority, be immune to this water of bitterness that brings the curse. But if you have gone astray while under your husband's authority, and if you have defiled yourself, and some other man other than your husband has had intercourse with you, let the priest make the woman take the oath of the curse, and say to the woman, the Lord make you as an execration and an oath among your people. When the Lord makes your uterus drop, your womb discharge, now may this water that brings the curse enter your bowels and make your womb discharge and your uterus drop. And the woman shall say, Amen, amen. Ha, ha, ha.
I bet so.
Isn't for the whole
This,
people.
I don't know who, this is really, who's the author of this?
yeah,
God.
huh?
No, I don't believe so. I'm sorry, I don't.
Okay, well, there's more, okay? Then the priest shall put these curses in writing and wash them off into the water of bitterness. So you're going to write it, and then you're going to wash it off. This goes all into the water of bitterness, okay? So this has got the dirt from the tabernacle floor, the ink from the curse, okay? And there's more. And he shall make the woman drink the water of bitterness that brings the curse, and the water that brings the curse shall enter her and cause bitter pain. The priest shall take the grain offering of jealousy out of the woman's hand and shall elevate the grain offering before the Lord and bring it to the altar. And the priest shall take a handful of the grain offering as its memorial portion and turn, see, he keeps some of it, okay? Memorial portion and turn it into smoke on the altar, and afterwards shall make the woman drink the water. So she's got to drink the ashes of the grain offering. When he's made her drink the water, then if she has defiled herself and has been unfaithful to her husband, the water that brings the curse shall enter into her and cause bitter pain, and her womb shall discharge, her uterus drop, and the woman shall become an execration among her people. But if the woman has not defiled herself and is clean, then she shall be immune and be able to conceive children. This is the law in cases of jealousy, when a wife under her husband's authority goes astray and defiles herself, or when a spirit of jealousy comes on the man. She doesn't have to do anything. And if he is jealous of his wife, then she shall set the woman before the Lord. The priest shall apply this entire law to her. Then the man shall be free from iniquity, but the woman shall bear her iniquity.
Was this a real problem in those days? That the
I wouldn't imagine it was a big problem.
There's so many details in here, it makes you think that this was a very occurring, something that happened all the time. They spend a lot of time telling you what's gonna happen to the woman if she steps out.
Yes.
But what if she was raped?
There is a provision in the law for that. If a woman is raped in the city and cries out, she will not be prosecuted. But if a woman is raped in the country and cries out and no one can hear her, she might be exonerated because no one would hear her anyway. Okay? But if she does not cry out in the city, she's going to get stoned.
What if she cries out and nobody hears her?
That's the thing. In the country, in the city, she doesn't have an excuse. In the country, she does.
Well, that's why I'm saying in the city, she could and nobody would hear her.
Right.
She's just out of luck.
Yeah. There's a lot of "you're out of luck, lady" in the Old Testament.
So when you went back to the very first, there's been so much that's been said.
Yeah.
The husband and the wife go to the priest.
Yeah.
Is there anyone else there?
Yeah.
So this is a congregation that's watching all of this?
Well, the elders are there. So he's not, yeah, they usually, yeah, anything that, like for instance, there's a whole council in the tent of tabernacle that are part of that. Yeah,
All of those people that were born into that tribe that get to have that authority.
yeah. Yeah,
wasn't born
yeah,
into that tribe.
it was very strict, very strict.
When they stoned them, was it to death?
Yes. And they weren't small stones, they're cobblestone, they're big rocks, crushing kinds of things. That's how they do it. And that's how they still do it in some countries in the Middle East. You know, they were doing it during Desert Storm. They did it especially after the troops were out of there and couldn't see what was going on. There was a woman in Saudi Arabia who thought because American women soldiers could drive anywhere in the vehicles that the Saudi women should be able to do that. And she started driving around. And for the time that we were stationed there, she drove around. When we left, her family brought her to the arena, and they had to stone her to death.
Because that's what the Quran said.
Yes, that's what the Quran. No, the Quran doesn't have anything about driving. That's one of the reasons why there are no posted speed limits in Saudi Arabia. There weren't when I was there. There are no posted speed limits because there are no speed limits in the Quran. Now, if you go to UAE, you better pay attention, okay? Because they got cameras every quarter mile, and every camera that catches you clocking high, you're going to get a $100 fine. And United Arab Emirates, yeah, they got cameras everywhere.
So the Quran, is it written in an established book, or do they amend it? Do they amend it and add?
They
new?
do not amend the Quran.
Okay.
They can comment on the Quran, but they cannot amend it in any way, shape, or form. It is locked in. Okay, just like our scriptures are locked in, and the only problem that we have in locking it in is that you're moving from one language to another. And so there are nuances that might be overlooked or misinterpreted easily. And that happens a lot. That's one of the reasons why people get doctorates and stuff, trying to figure that out. But you see, there's a very harsh society, very strict society. A woman who commits adultery brings dishonor on her husband. So this whole process is to exonerate the husband. Okay?
Because women were just nothing. We were inferior.
Yes,
Property.
basically your property, you know, but your property with responsibilities, you know, unlike other types of property, you know. Well, there are responsibilities for, I mean, if, you know, if your ox gores somebody, then there's some responsibility to pay. You end up stakes, you know, but yeah, it's not a fair society. And when you look at this and you say, well, this is the word of God, then you've got to start thinking about, and God doesn't change. God is the same yesterday, today, and forever. Okay? So if that's the case, and this is how God issued the law, is this the God that we worship? Or did this get in here some other way?
Well, how did the scholars sanction all this to get in here?
They were
How did
they were setting up a community. And the community that they were setting up, by the way, in many respects mimicked the communities of the area where they live. Okay, so it's influenced by Persian law, Babylonian law, Zoroastrian. There are other influences in here, Egyptian law, that come into this. Okay, so this is not a, you know, purely God said to me, like Joseph Smith. Okay, God said to me, this is what it is. Write it down. You know, no, it was. This is a culture that is being developed. Okay, and by the way, it's a cultural norm that withstood thousands of years. I mean, it really has. We consider ourselves more enlightened today, and I believe we by and large are, although there's some really sketchy stuff going on today. But you know, this isn't the way we resolve these issues anymore.
Crisis center.
Yes, yes, they did not have Christ. Okay, they did not understand the grace of God the same way that we understand the grace of God.
You know, we spend all that time, all that money, all those men in Afghanistan
Yeah,
trying to change this ancient culture. The minute we pull out, the women are right back where they were, nothing.
right. That's exactly right. And that's what, and see, this is the danger. This is the danger. If you have a document that is based on an ancient culture and you verbatim bring that culture into the 21st century, then, you know, or what are we in now? We're in 21st, yeah. You know, but you try and transpose that into the 21st century, and you disregard all the lessons that have been learned generation upon generation about how to put together a fair and equitable society, and you're still stuck in the 12th century. You know, that's what you get, and that's why I'm telling you, you know, the way I teaching this the way I am, because I don't want you to be an Old Testament people. I don't want to be an Old Testament person. I don't want to preach that this is the way God wanted it. Okay? Because I don't believe it was.
Well, he was teaching us along the way,
Yeah.
all the way.
Yeah, and you have to understand that just like, you know, if we look at ourselves today and we were looking at the people back then, they would be a lot shorter, a lot darker, you know, they would be more homogeneous in the way they appeared. You know, we're a society that's blended from all different areas, and we're, you know, we're taller, we're healthier, you know, there are a lot of things that have happened to us physically over the years, you know, like even the Pearl Harbor movie that they did. They tried to go back and do the original designs for the women's dresses, and it didn't work because the actresses were bigger, you know, than they were in the 1940s. Things transpire, things move. And because of that, societies transform, and you have to take some of the learning experiences into account. And we have discovered this is not the way to treat women. This is not the way to treat women, even if they're wrong. You don't do that.
Because
You
they're
know?
always right.
Most of the time.
Sort of kind of.
Depends on if you're married to them or not.
If you're married to them, they're always right.
Yeah, if you're married to them, they're always right. You know, it's like we were moving stuff around yesterday, and I asked the guys, you know, have you heard of Murphy's Law of furniture? And some of them had, some of them hadn't. But the law, Murphy's Law of furniture is this: if a man moves a piece of furniture and no woman is around to see it, he will move it again. And generally, it'll be 5 times and end up back where he put it in the first place. So that's just the way it works. Okay, well, God bless you all. Glad to have you here. And don't treat your women this way. Okay.
Don't cheat on your husband.
In our society, it's the men that get treated.
Hey, go to divorce court and see